I think the international community has a duty to explain the nature of migration to its voters. And rather than stirring up hatred, I think the Home Office and the rest of the government should be explaining how migration is a global phenomenon, not some sort of mad rush towards Britain. In fact, Britain takes significantly less migrants than other countries like Turkey, like Iran, oddly, like Colombia, like Germany, like Pakistan. These countries take significantly more of a proportion of the world migrants than we do. We take very few. And the migration problem that Suella Braverman goes on and on and on about is largely a paper tiger. If you listen to her speech in America the other day, she targets sub-Saharan Africa, North Africa, the Middle East. Why? Because for the most part, she's targeting a Muslim migration. And she presses the button for the people who don't like the woke agenda. She presses the button to claim there is no persecution of gay people, there is no persecution of women. Well, there is a persecution of both in many countries. And I see no reason why somebody coming from Afghanistan cannot be offered asylum simply by saying, I'm a woman or I'm gay. Both of those issues are something that compromises life or living in Afghanistan. Similarly, in Iran, it is possible to survive in these countries if you are a woman, if you are gay, but it's not possible to thrive in these countries. And so there's every reason why somebody may seek asylum in another country. And we have to take responsibility for the way in which over the last 40 years we have promoted English as a foreign language. We have to take responsibility for the fact that English is the default language. Why should somebody be seeking asylum in France or Germany when the language they speak as a second language is English? Why should somebody whose skills, who has a skill set that can be used here, be kept in a hotel and disillusioned here if they've fled because they are disillusioned there? Why should we give them more of the same when we can in fact use them? So Suella Braverman's speech about about global asylum and about changing the conditions of global asylum is partly motivated by a desire for change, and she's right. But she's confusing her identification of a problem with her identification of a solution, just as she confuses it when she talks about Rwanda. Her solution is wrong and mean and cruel and actually illegal. We face an existential challenge. At the moment, I'm beginning to think that existential challenge is not primarily migration, but is Suella Braverman. Not primarily the problem, but the solution. She's right that that solution undermines the nation state. She is undermining the nation state by whipping up a hostility that has often been whipped up in the past when a country faces economic crisis, unsustainable costs, security threats. Yes, all of these things are brought on by migration, uncontrolled migration, but they're also brought on by governments that are trying to distract from their own incompetence. Does immigration cause, as she says, extreme politics? No. She's the one who's causing extreme politics. Does it weaken democracy? No. She is the one who is weakening democracy by disparaging the law, by, as she calls it, testing the limits of the law. If she is testing the limits of the law, why shouldn't Joe Bloggs, who is shoplifting from Tesco's, test the limits of the law? She is setting an example that is destroying our society. She says that uncontrolled migration weakens democracy because voters think leaders cannot control its borders. Well, there are many other things that weaken democracy, including paying rail bosses so they can survive a strike. We need a new formula. And she, again, offers a problem and a solution at the same time. She says that people should, if they are migrating from one country to another, if they are immigrants, they should look at looking for refuge. They should do so in the first country they arrive in. They should have no right to pick and choose. Well, that idea of the first country they arrive in is called Dublin III. That was the protocol that we abandoned in our haste to get Brexit done. Get Brexit done! Ah! We were wrong. We were wrong because we were relying on Lord Frost and a number of twits who didn't really know what they were doing. And A does not flow automatically from B. In fact, even under Dublin III, migrants have a right to pick and choose where they go. So her idea that pending reform of the 1951 Refugee Convention, which I've been talking about all the way through this debate for months now, pending reform of the 1951 Refugee Convention, she believes that countries should take matters into their own hands. No. We should reform the 1951 Convention. And to reform the 1951 Convention probably means not just to redefine the nature of asylum, to make it clear that there is no such thing as an illegal asylum route. Once one claims asylum, one automatically legalizes the route that one has taken, or that one forces countries to have safe and legal routes to their country. That one forces countries to have consulates and places where people can claim asylum or begin that asylum process in their own country or near their own country. That should be a given. It's our country which has decided that the consulate cannot be the place of refuge. And when you made that decision, the small boats follow automatically. So we need to ensure that the overriding international convention stops small boats and breaks that smuggling business method. Then I think we need to enshrine in law the idea, in international law, the idea that gender can be a reason for asylum. I think we need to define, at least in some form, in broad sketches, what are legitimate areas of asylum, because I think that's not clear anymore, and it's very different to the situation faced in the post-war era when the 1951 Convention was drafted. The priority there was that people were fleeing war. Now I think we have a much broader definition. People are fleeing despair, and it's about desperation which drives people from their homes. No one wants to leave their home. So the idea that Suella Braverman perpetuates in our country to gain votes, that people have targeted Britain as a safe option, that people want access to our wonderful NHS, this is complete hokum. Complete hokum. And at the end of her speech, I think the most telling point about it, which isn't in the reports, which isn't in the news reports, is that her applause, the applause that greeted her speech, was very tepid. Very, very tepid. And why not? Because the United States, where she delivered this speech, is a country defined by immigration. It's written on the Statue of Liberty. And I think, once again, it demonstrates that she wants to give this speech in the United States, a country defined by immigration, defined by taking in the poor, taking in the needy, taking in the desperate, and giving them the option to make a better life, to live the American dream. If this is her belief that this is the place where she is going to receive the best audience, she's living in cloud cuckoo land, and it's a demonstration of her stupidity. And I think the media have conspired with Suella Braverman to present this speech as a significantly more effective speech than it actually was. It missed the points. It failed its audience. And it skirts around the issue rather than confronts the issue. The issue has been there. And yes, I applaud her for even bringing up the need for an international redefinition of the 1951 Refugee Convention. But she should be standing in that situation. She should be standing up and calling for an international convention to do that. She should be, we should be, Britain should be leading the way and calling for a conference. That was her opportunity. Muffed it.